I'm excited to introduce today Deborah Charnes with us today. Welcome, Deborah.
Hello, it's so nice to be with you today.
Thank you. So will you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, first of all, I am 65 years old, but what I like to say is I am at the healthiest and the happiest state of my life. And I would say it didn't get that way until I was over 50 and already eligible for my AARP discounts. Fortunately, I did not use those discounts for things like donuts.
Right.
But I felt that even though I have always been health conscious my entire life, I was I was a health nut my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But once I turned 50, I realized that I needed to be more diligent about my physical well-being, and along with that, the emotional well-being as well. So as part of that, I finally one day just decided I am leaving my corporate job. I am leaving the security of a paycheck and of Medicare. I'm sorry, not Medicare, but of health benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And I became self-employed. But I did it because I needed to do it for my, well, one, the physical well-being, because I was so stressed out, but that is also, of course, emotional well-being, and then the spiritual well-being, because I didn't feel aligned with what I was doing.
Yeah, and those all tie in our physical, spiritual, and emotional. They're all one, like they work together. So yeah. And so what did you have a plan when you were deciding, okay, I'm leaving this corporate world? Did you have a plan what you're going to do, or did you just leave and then it evolved for you?
No, I am a very well-organized type of person.
Okay.
I worked in the marketing communications world my entire life. I managed huge events and I managed global campaigns. I had to be so focused on minutia, and I would always create timelines way in advance, maybe even a year and a half in advance.
Wow.
I had one client where our timeline was down to the minute, and we would have to time things out in advance.
Wow, that's extreme.
So, yes. And for my own personal comfort level, I think I would have been a wreck if I had just said, okay, I'm leaving today.
Yeah.
I did a lot of advanced planning and thinking things out and introspective exercises. And as a result of some of those introspective exercises, I put on 3x5 cards some of the things that throughout my life were the most fulfilling. And one of them, and we can talk about it later, but one of them is mentioned in my book, and it's singing.
Oh, yeah.
And I am not a choral, wonder. I'm talking about whether it's singing in the bathroom, singing in the car, singing with my friends, just singing for pure pleasure. Anyway, I created a series of all these 3x5 cards, and I wrote down different things that made my heart sing, going all the way back to childhood. And then I shelved them for a while. And separately, I created, I don't know if it was an Excel sheet, but it was something that I could add up on a calculator of what I thought my the bare bones income needed to be. And once I did that, I created a plan for what I would do. As I mentioned, I worked in marketing communications my entire life. And quite frankly, I was good at it. I won international awards. Wow. But, there was just something missing. So what I decided to do was to take my knowledge, my experience, and put it to use with something that I found to be more fulfilling. So I created my own consultancy, And when I opened it, and even on the back of my business cards, it still says today, committed to positive transformation. And I meant positive transformation in the community, but also of oneself. And along with that, I mentioned that I've been a health nut my entire life. I have practiced yoga my entire life and meditation and breath work since I was an adolescent. But after I was 50 years old, I did the training for yoga teacher training, intensive. And once I did that for myself, I did not do that with the intention of teaching. It
Okay.
was strictly for how can I be healthier and happier. And of course, after I did that, I was like, oh my God, I need to spend more time with my personal practice. And I want to share this with other people. But I was working 80-hour work weeks,
Wow.
7 days a week. I was traveling all over the country and to other countries as well.
That is intense.
Yes. So when I quit my job, then I was able to dedicate more time for myself and also to teach yoga. And then from there, everything snowballed. And now I would say that yoga, when people ask me what is yoga, I like to say that to me, yoga is a lifestyle. It's not about being in a studio or on a mat for 60 minutes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also the essence, I believe, of the book that I wrote, From the Boxing Ring to the Ashram. It doesn't talk about, doing headstands or pretzel poses per se, but it's more about mindfulness and finding that inner balance with your body, your mind, and your spirit, with yourself and a creator or a higher source, whatever you may call that force or that being.
Mm-hmm.
And also to have closer tie to nature and to our planet.
Yeah, that's important for me as well. Nature is very energizing for me. And so you talked about yoga and it being a lifestyle. What do you mean by that? It being a lifestyle as opposed to it just being maybe a practice for an hour here and there?
What is commonly acknowledged within the yoga industry and among yoga teachers is that people first come to yoga for the physical benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a perfect example of that. I started yoga when I was very young because I had chronic back pain. I also began meditation and breath work when I was very young because of digestive disorders that were all stress related. So the physical is so much easier to define, and we can put our finger on everything that is the physical. But the emotional is nebulous. Sometimes you may wake up feeling fabulous, and other times maybe a 5 out of a 10, but we don't have black and white to say, oh, I have a broken bone, right?
Mm.
Or again, with my case, with my back issues, scanning, imaging could tell me what the problem was. And with my digestive disorders as well, all of the imaging and the testing could give me a clear diagnosis, even though it was emotional. They could say, we have ruled out everything else. And they gave me, of course, I have a name for my disease, which will be long. It will be until I die. But the management is based on stress and emotions. But again, that is so much harder for people to deal with, I think. And a long time ago, when I was working in the marketing communications world, one of my clients was the National Institute of Mental Health.
Okay.
And we were specifically doing exploratory research in Texas among males who are much more traditionally inclined to see any form of mental illness as a taboo.
Mm.
And of course, that was a long time ago, and I believe that things have changed so much in those years. But it is still a lot easier, I think, for people to say, you know, I have a broken bone, I need a cast,
Right.
rather than I have depression, I don't know what to do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, to me, yoga is a lifestyle. And based on all the findings, I have a lot of research that I share in my book. And I talk about how the yoga lifestyle, and I can go into that more, but how the entire yoga lifestyle contributes to a more positive state of mind. And it literally transforms or rewires your brain. So as an example, there, and of course, I am not a brain expert, but one of the mentors in my book is a neuroscientist who has studied yoga and the brain for 30 years, and he's affiliated with Harvard Medical School. And he talks about all the different components of the brain. And just as an example, the amygdala, which I think is an almond-shaped part in your brain, the bigger that it is, the more you have depression. And studies have shown that one single class of Iyengar yoga can contribute to a positive state of mind that can last for a week. And continued yoga can shrink the amygdala, which leads to a greater positive mindset. Now, as far as yoga as a lifestyle, there are many tenets of yoga. And one of the ones that I love the most, in Sanskrit, it's called santosha. And the translation is contentment. And if we think about, and again, I worked in the advertising marketing world my entire life, and we told people they need this, they need that. Mm-hmm. And we were training people to not be content. And that was where I had that personal crossroads in my life as well. And I, for example, right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm looking out my window and I'm looking at my beautiful green trees. And that gives me contentment.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. So you mentioned, before you continue on that, you mentioned a type of yoga a minute ago. I don't even know the pronunciation. Do you know what I'm referring to? Sure. The one that helps shrink yeah.
Right.
Can you explain what that is?
Sure. It is a form of hatha yoga. It's Iyengar, which is the last name of the guru who made it more popular in the Western world. Okay. He lived to be close to 100 years old, and right before his death, pretty much, he was still doing all the physical components of yoga. And Iyengar yoga is very much alignment based. So it is very much focused on the physical. Mm-hmm. However, with any traditional hatha, and again, it is a form of hatha yoga, any hatha yoga ideally incorporates breath work, body work, mindfulness, and rest. Okay. And those are the 4 pillars that the neuroscientist who is featured in my book, all of his studies, when they look at yoga, they make sure that it includes all of those 4 pillars. So again, if you're just, going to the gym to work out, mm-hmm. not focusing on your breath, if there's no relaxation response, then you're not necessarily getting all of those benefits, but coupled, those four are extremely powerful.
Okay. And so you talk about, all this connection that you have with, there's four pillars, but that the base is from the emotion. I mean, that affects your physical a lot. And how can someone, I mean, I think with the struggles between, someone having depression versus a broken bone is because there's a lot involved with depression that has to be uncovered still. It's not just a simple, yep, this is the problem, we know how to fix it. There's so many issues involved. So how, what can someone do on a daily basis to help, increase that better state for themselves emotionally as well as physically and spiritually?
Exactly. Well, first of all, I do want to mention that, of course, the physical is so often a trigger of the emotional.
Right.
And even when I did the work with the National Institute of Health ages ago, what we were specifically looking at with these men in Texas was men that had heart disease, because that also was going to be a trigger for depression.
Okay.
And when people have chronic pain, they also are more likely to have depression. So things do go hand in hand. But in terms of yoga and the benefits, obviously the physical components of yoga help, but the mindfulness is so important. And that mindfulness, you can actually almost disconnect sometimes physical pain, and you can soften the emotional blows. And the chapter in my book that focuses on the neuroscientist, what we talk about in particular is how yoga can affect people with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And first of all, I am a big advocate of mental health professionals. And I certainly believe that people should see a mental health specialist, whichever is most appropriate for them, whether it's a psychotherapist, whether it's a psychologist or psychiatrist. I do have great respect for that field. But what I disclose in my book is that there are many people for whom the drugs do not work. Of course, we all know about the problems with opioids and the addictions and the overdoses, but the other issue sometimes with talk therapy is talk therapy, especially for people with PTSD. You relive the traumas with talk therapy. And so those triggers are being reignited. And sometimes that is very uncomfortable for people and does not necessarily have a positive result. Whereas, as my neuroscientist in the book says, when you do yoga, something magic happens. And it just kind of erases some of those issues. But again, going back to yoga as a lifestyle, I mentioned that people typically begin yoga from a physical component, but the more that they get into yoga, they realize that there's so much more, and there is magic. And it's not about the physical, it's about so much more. And to me, that is when the contentment blossoms. And some people will say intuition is enhanced. The number one commandment in yoga is do no harm. And that means do no harm to yourself, to other people, to any living being, or to the planet. So again, it's connecting with yourself, with others, and with the planet, and having increasing that love and respect.
Yeah. And I like how earlier you mentioned singing, how that's you love to sing, and that is just an outlet. And we discussed before, and can you talk about some other outlets that there are that helps us to have that better lifestyle?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to mention that as I am a certified yoga therapist, and
Okay.
oftentimes I tell people the focus is on therapist, not on yoga,
Hmm.
because people automatically connect yoga with that physical component. And I'm not saying I don't do movement therapy. I love movement therapy, but some of the things that I love to incorporate are song, dance, laughter, smiling, and even with children. When I work with children, I do a lot with clapping and stomping of the feet and jumping up and down. I just had a class, I think it was Monday night, and I had people jumping up and down to music.
Mhm.
And those are childlike, pleasurable experiences that too often as adults we think, oh, I'm not gonna me jump up and down, like that's not appropriate. Or me to laugh if I'm not at a comedy show or I'm not watching a funny movie. Why would I do that? And the same thing with dancing. Just dance for no reason at all. You don't have to be at in a ballroom or at a discotheque to dance.
Right.
One of the workshops that I love leading, it's called Belly Bollywood.
Okay.
And I incorporate music from Bollywood, but I also incorporate different kinds of like Arabic music and even Latin music. And we do a little bit of belly dance, and it's basically entire movement therapy, and it's so fun. And then of course I encourage people to shout and sing as they're doing it. And in my book, an entire chapter is about laughter as medicine. Another chapter talks about the importance of smiling. Another chapter talks about the magic of song and silence.
Mm.
And one of the concepts about laughter as therapy, which is hard for us to, at least it's hard for me, for my mind to rationalize, but according to studies, they have found that simulated laughter is even more therapeutic than natural laughter.
That's interesting.
Yes. And I'm a laughter yoga trainer and a laughter yoga coach.
Okay.
And laughter yoga was created by a physician in Mumbai, India, and his wife is a yoga teacher. So he combined what he knew from a medical perspective, along with what she knew from a breathwork perspective, to make it extremely beneficial. And
Never
it's
heard of
good
that
for,
before.
yeah. And it actually tones up your core muscles. What
Okay.
I like to say, and you can laugh at this, and I'm not going to show you, but what I like to say is I have a six-pack here, but it's underneath a little bit of some layers of fat.
Yeah.
But laughter really does tone up your abdomen. Laughter is incredible for your circulation. I have always had my entire life poor circulation. Laughter is wonderful for that. Of course, laughter is good for your lungs, it's good for your heart, and it's good for your mind.
Yeah.
You really can laugh away your problems and your pains. And that's what I share in my book, From the Boxing Ring to the Ashram. And in fact,
And with that class, what do you do in that class? I mean, that just makes me wonder.
great question. Every laughter yoga coach is different. I was very much inspired by the inventor of laughter yoga. His name is Dr. Madan Kataria. And some of the things that he has introduced in more recent years, I love.
Okay.
And he introduces song and dance.
Oh, fun.
So when I have signature laughter yoga workshops that I have created. One of them, oh, and first of all, I mentioned before things that are childlike natural behaviors, like
Mhm.
laughing and singing and dancing and smiling. One of the concepts of laughter yoga is that it really is important for us to embrace our inner child and to have that simulated play. So I have one, which I go back to my childhood, and I actually mention in my book, talking about singing, how I was in heaven when I saw the movie Mary Poppins. And then afterwards, I would sing the songs from the movie with my sister.
Uh-huh.
So I have created a signature workshop called it's laughter yoga Mary, and I think I called it Chim Chimney or something like that. But I have a lot of songs from the Mary Poppins movie. Some of them we sing along to, especially the ones that the words make no sense, like
Uh-huh.
Chim Chimney or Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Those again are all childlike play. And
Uh-huh.
that is very good for the brain. Fake talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we do Chim Chim Chimney, I have people imagine that they have a broom and that they're sweeping the chimney. So they're dancing around. I just want to make it all fun. So again, I incorporate all the elements of smiling, laughing, song, dance, and pantomime.
Okay.
But what I do want to highlight is, of course, the laughter. So in laughter yoga, we laugh with everything we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes natural. Even though it's simulated, it becomes natural because we're enjoying it.
And it seems like someone, dancing around, acting like they're doing the broom sweep, and it's not a natural thing for them to be doing the dancing and stuff. They might start laughing at that anyway, just feeling silly, and so creates that natural
Exactly.
laughter.
Right.
uh,
Because too often as adults, we self-judge.
yeah.
And self-judgment is always going to put you in a rut.
Yeah. And yeah, to be able to just feel free, and just like you're saying, singing in a car, singing anywhere, whatever, with friends, and just being carefree. My girls and I, we just like to dance around and stuff, and just to let your mind just kind of relax that way, I think is healthy. So I love all these tips, and that's interesting about the laughter yoga. So that's fun.
And
um
the story behind my mentor with laughter yoga, his story is an incredible story about overcoming adversity and challenges and horrendous turn of events in his life. And he did it all through laughter.
that's amazing. Laughter is the best medicine, I hear,
Yes.
quoted. And yeah, sounds like it's very true. So is there anything else that you would like to share before we close? I would like you to share a little bit more about your book and where people can get it as well.
Well, one of the things, the main premise of my book is that all of the tips are from 12 of my mentors around the world. Some of them I consider real gurus or swamis that wear orange robes and have shaven heads. But the person with the laughter as medicine was the president of a Latin American nation.
Oh,
And one of them was a female world-class boxer, and that's then where I get the name from, the boxing ring to the ashram.
okay.
And what I try to do with every story is provide simple, accessible, enjoyable, and free practices for people to do in as little as 10 minutes a day. Because the last thing I want to do is give people more stress. Oh my God, I don't have time for this. I don't have money for this. I don't have the props for this. I don't have the space for this. It needs to be accessible and enjoyable. And that's why I highlighted things such as, again, the singing, the dancing, the smiling, the laughing. Another one, and I just want to mention that the boxer, she also overcame so much in terms of adversity. She, aside from traditional trauma that caused PTSD, so she had traditional traumas that resulted in PTSD. But aside from that, she was hit way too many times in the boxing ring, and she ended up with the same issues that Muhammad Ali had. It's called dementia pugilistica. She has permanent cognitive disability. She jumped from 150 pounds to 400 pounds.
Wow.
When she had to leave the boxing ring because she loved that life, when she had to leave it, she had so much clinical depression and she was suicidal. And she checked herself in to a brain institute and she changed her life around. And today she is one of the most positive people I know. And the focus of that chapter is all about the power of smiling and of gratitude. And again, I give clinical studies, research findings to support how a simple gratitude practice can make a difference. And again, that ties into what I was talking about earlier with the yogic lifestyle and the tenet of contentment.
Yeah.
So rather than looking at, oh, I don't have money to pay my bills, I look at, oh my goodness, the tree in my front yard is so beautiful. And the sound of the birds is so calming. And right now I just saw some beautiful butterflies. And those to me make me so happy. And a gratitude practice does not have to, you don't have to say, oh, I'm grateful that I won the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
But it's grateful for simple things in your life. And sometimes I have a personal gratitude practice. And sometimes I write down, I'm grateful for John or Mary or Cynthia, just people that maybe they're not good friends, maybe they're not family, but maybe each one of those people said something or did something to me that day that was like, that really makes me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a tradition in our family. Every night before we pray together as a family, we say something that we're grateful for and how we've seen God's hand in our life that day. And
Beautiful.
I just wanted that focus, especially for my children, just that gratitude. See something, even if it's a hard day, find something you're grateful for.
And in fact, when I worked in the corporate world, we had so much stress and we were always under the gun, and all problems or all errors, ERRORS, were pointed at us, even though I think my team always did brilliant jobs, but we had to shoulder all the blames and all the problems for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So what I incorporated, and this was of course before, I got to where I am, but I still had those desires. I incorporated something where once a week we had our staff meeting and we all brought to the table something that we were proud of that we did that week.
That's
and
good.
It could be as little as possible. It could be, I finished everything on my checklist, or the client didn't complain. It could be as simple as that, or it could be as big as I won a national award.
Yeah.
But the idea is we need to be grateful for the little things in our lives because those are with us every moment of the day.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for being with me today. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate it. Can you tell people where they can find your book and connect with you?
Of course.
Okay.
The easiest way is, first of all, I have a YouTube channel, I have an Instagram account, and a website, and they are all my name, Deborah, Deborah, Charnes, Charnes, and my author site is deborahcharnes.com/author. book.
Okay.
And when you're on that site, can also see all of my yoga therapy on other buttons, but the site specifically for the book is /book. My paperback of From the Boxing Ring to the Ashram is available pretty much anywhere that you buy your books online. And of course, you can always ask your library or your bookstore to get it for you because it is available. But on deborahcharnes.com/book, there are several buttons where you can choose from where you want to buy it from, where it will be direct links.
Okay.
The electronic book, however, is only available for the first until, let's see, until September, until the middle of September, it is only going to be available on Amazon, and then it will be widely distributed. And the reason why it's available only on Amazon the first 90 days is because we will be having periodic promotions on Amazon for the ebook. So that's why I do recommend that people go first to Amazon if they want to buy the ebook and take advantage of all the specials and gift it to someone you feel can benefit from it. Because too often also people that, if you're feeling in a rut, you're going to be less likely to do something for yourself. So sometimes you need someone else to give you that boost or to give you that perk or that gift.